Right now, we are joined by a good friend of mine. His name is Rob Keyes, and we are going to talk about other big movies. He works for ScreenRant.com and CBR.com. He's the editorial director there, covering movies and TV and everything cool in pop culture, which is our beat as well. And I run into Rob at all kinds of cool places. Thank you so much for joining us, Rob. It's great to see you, buddy.
You too. Thank you for having me on. I've been a big fan of EP since I was a little toddler.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, I think we ran into each other last year at Star Wars Celebration.
That's right.
When a lot of stuff was still undetermined about what was going to happen with The Last Jedi, and the announcement of the end of Star Wars Rebels was there. And
Yeah.
was there anything around Solo? There wasn't anything around Solo.
No, they kept that back, and I think we may have learned after the fact why that might have been the case. But yeah,
Well,
and no celebration this year, which is sad.
Yeah, which is weird as well.
Yeah.
Maybe not a bad move, because there has been so much hostility, I think, thrown in the Star Wars direction. How do you feel about that, all of that stuff?
Yeah, I think you're actually. I mean, it's not franchise fatigue. A lot of people like to throw that term around. I think what it is I think people simmered down after The Last Jedi. I think there's a big gap between the initial critics' reactions to that film and the rest of reality.
Yeah.
And merchandise sales dropped. I know you were talking about Battlefront 2 in the previous segment, and that did not hit well at all.
Yeah.
At the same time, EA canceled another big Star Wars game. So it's like Star Wars is not in a prime spot like Marvel is right now, for example.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And do you think it's warranted? I mean, how did you personally feel about The Last Jedi?
It's a movie that plays so well on the big screen because it has some of the greatest visuals and sound and just moments that are so cool. But
Yeah.
how they connect those moments and the narrative thread and how they handle the characters, especially some of the legacy characters from the original trilogy. I think if you sit down and think about that after the fact, it doesn't quite fit or work for me. And
Yeah.
I'm certain J.J. Abrams, when he takes on episode 9, will address some of that more. But at the time, it's like it went from being, oh my God, this is awesome, what's next, to be like, oh man, why are they doing that? And
Yeah.
I can wait for the next one.
Yeah, and a lot of people love The Last Jedi, and I was just talking with Sam Witwer about the same thing. But you can certainly understand why a lot of people were pissed off, right? Like it's easy to kind of wrap your head around that, isn't it?
Exactly. And I think on the filmmaker side, they will say they're trying to subvert your expectations. And I'm like, that's good if you're doing something awesome. But things like who Snoke is and why is he the biggest, baddest villain we've ever seen in the Star Wars universe,
Yeah.
I kind of want to know more about a character like that,
Yeah.
And they just threw it away like it was nothing. And I think that doesn't work.
So let's talk about Solo then. I
Yeah.
know that you work with Disney all the time, and you're visiting sets and talking to different people. Maybe not so much. Do you get to the Star Wars sets? Or are they more?
No.
Yeah,
They are. Star Wars is a unique beast. And when it comes to the junkets, this is the only film franchise I've heard of in the history of Hollywood where they don't even let you see the movie before you do the interviews. That's how little they care because Star Wars is so big it sells itself.
Yeah.
However, with Rogue One, the first sort of Risk anthology film, they did show us 30 minutes of footage. And with what's going on behind the scenes of Han Solo and the downtrending of the franchise, I wouldn't be surprised if they showed more of that or the whole movie this time around.
Yeah, I think they have to kind of win back a little bit, right? How much of a risk or a potential problem is Solo, do you think, if it's not a good movie?
That's a good question. It's the whole franchise is sort of at a turning point because you just mentioned Rebels is coming to an end, but at the same time they're prepping to launch 2 to 3 shows, both animation and live action, and we're bringing back Abrams, who sort of hit a home run with The Force Awakens, even though that there's an argument to be made about that film having its own problems.
Yeah.
But with The Last Jedi kind of turning the thing and then all the behind the scenes issues with directors, like half the creatives have been pushed out halfway through filming a movie. That's not a good sign. But if you've been following it, they've been making all sorts of announcements, right? Like Benioff and Weiss from Game of Thrones are doing a series. Ryan's coming back to do an all original, for the first time ever, original Star Wars trilogy. And now we got Jon Favreau doing a live action TV show. So I think even if Han Solo stutters a little bit, I don't think it will with Ron Howard and Donald Glover involved. But if it does, I think they're okay because 3 years from now, they'll be pumping out 2 movies and 2 or 3 TV shows a year. And if all that stuff is good, no one will care.
Yeah,
right?
it'll be a whole new universe, a whole new bunch of characters and stuff. What have you been hearing about Solo? Because I know you know everybody. You got your ear to the ground.
It's a mix. I mean, when they brought in Ron Howard to kind of become the fixer, it was a weird, unique problem because Miller and Lord had done 90% of the film, and they had to fire them at that point because if they did 91%, all of a sudden they according to the DGA rules, would have a final say on the theatrical cut, right? Which Disney and Kathleen Kennedy could not let happen. So they went from bringing in Howard to finish the movie and fix a couple of scenes to what I hear is reshooting a lot of the film.
Yeah.
And he's a company man. He gets it. I think they have a very clear plan. I think Disney's strong enough to where, like, every time they take over a film and try to fix it halfway through, at the very worst, you're going to get something that's competent. And again, the Donald Glover factor, everything that guy touches is awesome. So I still think it's going to be good.
He is amazing. I love Donald Glover. I'm getting more and more psyched for Star Wars. I'm not crazy, or for Solo. I'm not crazy about Alden Ehrenreich, what I've seen so far. Sure. But hopefully he wins me over. But let's talk about what's interesting is Ready Player One. We just learned that Spielberg couldn't get the rights to Star Wars, even though Kathleen Kennedy was probably given one of her first big breaks working with Spielberg, right?
It's actually, there's a live update, everybody, live update.
Yeah.
It turns out he did. That was like a coy.
Oh.
I think Eric Davis at movies.com and Fandango just reported that he actually did manage to get the IP for Star Wars. And I think they're trying to keep it a secret. What a twist.
Oh,
so
my
maybe,
God. Okay.
Maybe there is some kind of Star Wars thing in there. It's I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
My guy just did the junket this week in Hollywood, and I know it played at South by Southwest to pretty positive reactions.
Yep.
I'm not sure yet if Star Wars is in it or not, but man, that would be cool if it was.
Oh, I wish that guy hadn't broke that, man. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you're a fan of this stuff. That's why you're doing this. But I think you're probably like me. It's like we love to do it and talk about it and get some inside stuff, but it also is kind of a pain in the ass to know all the secrets, right?
It's a very tricky balance, especially when you're you know this from the game side a lot. Like, you get privileged information under embargo, and you have to sort of pretend you don't know that when you're doing up-to-date coverage. And on the film side, you take that to an extreme, because you mentioned set visits. If we visit a film a year and a half out, we have to hold on to that information for a year and a half while everyone else kind of spills it, what I mean, or it comes out officially. And if you, over the years, like if you build connections, you learn even more things you probably shouldn't know. Yep. And again, you can't share it, but like you said, it's cool to have that. I call it a privilege. It just helps form your own narrative and kind of know what's going on behind the scenes.
Well, the thing that sort of countered that is how explosively the sort of geek production world has grown. We can't, like, even if you are, tapped in a million places, and I am tapped in, we can't know everything. It's impossible now. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you could keep up with a lot more stuff, but now it's out of control, right? Like, Netflix has a new superhero show every week, it feels like.
It's so true. And I'm sure, like we grew up with this stuff. Like, the comics that we loved are now games and movies and TV shows and stuff. So in a way, we sort of already know that stuff, and we're just like the lucky few who prepped for that our whole lives. So on the flip side of it, if they're honoring these adaptations, we sort of kind of know little bits of it already. Yeah. But knowing for real that something's happening in a big movie, it's definitely a tricky thing to handle.
Awesome. Well, I know you were in Vancouver. I'm going to save the Avengers chat for last, and it's awesome that you're here because we got the new trailer for Infinity War drop today. But Deadpool 2 was filming in Vancouver. I know you came out to meet with Ryan Reynolds and visit the set for that one, right?
No, they not for this one. I did for the first one. Okay. But this one, they're kind of you mentioned Star Wars is kind of at an interesting turning point. I think the X-Men franchise is as well. Yeah. For two reasons. One, of course, there's the imminent Disney Fox takeover deal, which may or may not still happen. And on the other side of it, they're sort of redoing the franchise in a way. Deadpool changed everything, right? Rated R movie, no 3D, made a ton of money, proved that can work. So now they're building towards that. And the old Bryan Singer era of X-Men films is over, and Simon Kinberg is stepping in front of the cameras, behind the camera, I should say, for X-Men Dark Phoenix, which is a very weird film. It's his first time directing, and it's a film that they're keeping like super under wraps. So they didn't want any media on set. Same with Deadpool 2. And I know when Simon Kinberg first joined Fox, he did so with a multi-picture contract with the idea of setting up a huge storyline that we haven't seen unfold yet. So I think the reason Deadpool 2 and Dark Phoenix are super secretive is because we're going to see some time travel stuff, some other crazy stuff, and it's going to change the franchise, potentially, eventually leading to that crossover we all want to see with the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh, yeah, that's going to happen for sure. Do you think, well, unless Comcast comes in and changes everything, right? And they have the Hulk rights too, right? Which is a whole different can of worms.
Yeah. It's very so is Comcast connected to Universal? Is that the whole thing?
Yeah, they own NBC Universal. Yeah.
Right. So they have the distribution rights for Hulk, which is why Marvel can't really make their own solo Hulk movie. They don't want to anyways, but if they did, they can't unless they had a deal with Universal the same way Sony and Marvel are working together on Spider-Man. Yeah. But yeah, that would be extremely interesting if Comcast was able to pull that off. I don't know. I mean, giant corporate mergers are a thing to be feared in general, maybe. But for fans, I don't know what's better. I think ultimately, as a Marvel fan, seeing the Fantastic Four and X-Men come home is what we want to see in the end, right?
It is amazing that we put so much faith in these huge for-profit public companies to have our best interests to entertain us.
Yes.
But they do, for some freaking reason. Somehow they get the right mix of artists and actors and writers. Like I did this thing on the Marvel MCU movies. I talked for 30 minutes about my 18 favorite flicks, and it was easy to do. But 18 movies in 10 years, man, it's incredible. What have you heard about Deadpool 2? Do you think is it gonna be the Last Jedi to Force Awakens, or is it gonna be a bigger movie than Deadpool?
It's a good question. There's mixed reports on these, what they call test screenings, of whether that was well received. And people I know with inside information said like it was actually very, very well received, what they've seen.
Cool.
I think it'll be cool because it's going to be different. Also because David Leitch is directing this one. And if you haven't seen John Wick, wow, you're in for something special. I had the good fortune of meeting him on the set of The Wolverine, where he directed second unit. So all the best Wolverine action you've seen came from David. He gets it. If you've seen John Wick, you should not question the action we're going to see in Deadpool 2. And of course, you're bringing in Cable and a bunch of other mutant characters who are going to form X-Force. So I think it's different enough with enough new characters that I think it's going to be good for old fans and people who are sort of uncertain about it. I think it might be good.
You brought up Wolverine, man, and I know that you know people and you've talked with Jackman a bunch of times over his career. Is he done?
Yeah, he swears he's done. But, when I talk to executives at Fox, they're like, maybe he'll do a cameo. But I really do think his time is up. As much as I personally want to see him come back for like X-Force, it's currently not in the cards.
He could totally just keep playing Old Man Logan. Like, he could just grow up into and he is such a good performer. He would totally pull it off. It'd be amazing.
Oh, man. And the next layer of that, could you imagine him opposite Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man? Oh, man, that's a fan dream, right?
So, I think there's you're holding out hope. I'm holding out hope.
Yes, we are holding out hope.
Okay. Jurassic World 2 is the big sequel. I kind of poo-poo this movie, but because I didn't like the first movie that much, but it made so much money and it made so many people happy. So maybe this will be good. Or do you think this will be good?
I don't. I did not like Jurassic World. I did not understand the fascination with it, other than the fact that we hadn't had a big budget dinosaur movie in like 10, 20 years. But I don't get it. I thought it was just dumb. It was really, really dumb, and way too much of a rehash of the first one. And from the trailers I've seen of the second one, it's just CGI nothingness with characters I don't care about. It's hard to. It's not working for me. But like you said, the first one beat the Avengers at the box office, so I don't get it. I just don't get it with this one.
It is weird, right? I mean, we love our dinosaurs. I'm sort of with you. Like, I just don't know. It's Colin Trevorrow back, right, at the helm of this one?
He's producing and helping write it. It's I think it's J.A. Bayona directing this one, actually.
Oh, what did he do last? He's got some good stuff, right?
He has very good stuff. It's sort of like Trevorrow. It came from
A Monster Calls. Yeah, God, that's right.
Which is a good movie. So
that was cool. So maybe there'll be a little more character work, a little bit more. I mean, he's got good performers. I think so.
Yes. People had a lot of issues with the characters in the first one, so I imagine on the script for the second one that was the focus. But against the backdrop of like unlimited CGI dinosaurs falling off mountains, I don't know how much I really care.
I know, right?
So
I know. All right, one that I know you're excited for. I can't freaking wait for this. I don't know if you got access to Pixar. They're very secretive too. But Incredibles 2 is coming. What's the word? What's the buzz?
So I will know more very soon. In about 2 weeks, we're going to visit Pixar and kind of find out what's going on. But I mean, Brad Bird is back. He's been talking about making this movie for 15. I guess when did the first one come out? 2004. So like 14 years. It's a crime that's taken so long.
Yes.
But hey, look. They're the only ones to get the Fantastic Four sort of formula to work on screen, and they're bringing back everybody. I'm sure it's going to be charming. I mean, if you look at just like the Oscars record of Disney Animation and Pixar, like they don't really miss. And Incredibles is a very special brand. Everyone's back. I think just for the limited bit of what I know, I would expect very good things from that film.
Yeah, I'm super psyched. Do you feel like Brad Bird tried his hand with some live action stuff and it didn't really take off for him? Do you feel like he's going back and he's going back to what's familiar and what's sort of more of his comfort zone, or is he just meant to be an animation director?
I don't know. I think it's hard to base any analysis on just this movie alone because The Incredibles is very near and dear to him and fans. So I think he's maybe always wanted to do this, and now there's finally an opportunity to do so. But to what you're saying, like after this, I wouldn't be surprised if he did, I don't know, like another Mission Impossible movie or something like that.
He's the perfect candidate to revitalize Fantastic Four, you know?
Wow.
Like this guy totally understands a super family. Why not make the live action, right?
Yo, Kevin Feige called up Vic. He's got an idea. Like, you're right, 100%. He could totally do that under like the Marvel Studios umbrella. I could see that.
That would be amazing. And what's weird now is that we have Big Hero 6, The Incredibles, all of the MCU. It's all this and Star Wars. It's all under one umbrella, which is insane.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah. And all at those theme parks and on the toy shelves. They know what they're doing when it comes to superheroes, for sure.
Disney could just make their own Ready Player One. They don't even need to do it.
Although they sort of tried, though, on the video game front.
Yes,
right?
That's right.
The Infinity and that. You saw what IP lawyers could do with a franchise like that.
That's true. That's true.
It's too bad, but I would love to see that.
And did they give you access to the set of Ant-Man and the Wasp?
It's possible they did. We can talk about that.
Oh, very nice. Okay, all right.
But yeah, that movie looks cool for sure.
Okay. Why does it look cool?
Well, look, the first one had a bit of an issue with Marvel. You go back to Phase 1, Phase 2 era of Marvel Studios, and there was a very widely publicized issue between creative control, right? Like all the directors of the Phase 1 movies got pushed out. Whedon had a bad time at Age of Ultron. Alan Taylor had the worst time of his life on Thor, the sequel, not even knowing what he's shooting each day. So they've been all pushed out. And Edgar Wright, who was like sort of the first director attached to Marvel Studios to do Ant-Man going back to like 2006 or something. Like he had a decade he was trying to make this happen. And they finally got the chance to, in 2 weeks before filming, creative control. And out he goes. They brought in Peyton Reed, who almost made like a 60-set Fantastic Four movie. We were talking about that earlier with Kevin Feige years earlier for Fox. He did a tremendous job. Him and Paul Rudd, of all people, helped rewrite the script, and they did it last minute. And it came together as like a solid action movie.
I really love that movie,
It's very good, and it's one of the few movies that touches on the idea and the theme of family, which is you don't see very much in these movies, and you're going to see more of this year. But this time Peyton Reed gets to start from scratch, and he gets to do it with some of the guys behind Community and some of the guys who wrote Spider-Man Homecoming. So I think they get it. They're very motivated, and we get to see Wasp finally debut on screen. I think it's going to be very cool. And for you Marvel Cinematic Universe fans, this one, more than any other movie, has the most direct ties to what's happening in Avengers Infinity War and the untitled Avengers 4. So there's a lot going on.
That's awesome. Have you seen more than we have maybe of Evangeline Lilly in action as a superhero?
No, I think most of what we would see in terms of concept art and photos and some behind the scenes stuff has been publicized. I think as soon as Infinity War hits theaters, you're going to see a very harsh rollout of that type of content that you're looking for. So there's a lot coming very soon.
Yeah. The Marvel folks must just be on cloud nine right now with the success of Black Panther. It's like they can't miss, right?
Yeah. It's about time. On one hand, it's like it's about damn time they did Black Panther. On the other hand, wow, they chose the best time ever to make that movie in the history of the world, right?
Yeah.
So yes, it's so good because we're not only going to get these guaranteed Black Panther sequels, which they knew were going to happen before they even shot that one, but you're going to see a lot of those fan favorite characters show up in other Marvel projects in the future, and that's perhaps even more exciting. So Wakanda is like an anchor point for the whole universe going forward.
Yeah, it seems like a logistical and financial nightmare to think about how all of these characters are going to cross-thread and be everywhere. But I think ultimately what it really does, it gives Marvel and Disney a whole bunch of different casting choices at any given moment, right? Like they don't need to have, Chadwick Boseman, to show up over here. They can have Shuri show up over here,
Exactly.
They've got a lot of chess pieces, and they can just move them around. Doesn't have to be Nick Fury everywhere, much to Sam Jackson's dismay.
And it's funny because Shuri's like on paper, that's a supporting character, but in reality, it's one of the coolest characters we've ever seen in a superhero movie who's going to show up in 10 more movies, and that's awesome. But at the same time, the branding and the franchise and the world building has been so strong. Not only can they just pick supporting characters and put them anywhere to help bolster a cast, but they can just add new characters like it's nothing because people would totally pay to see it. Imagine Shuri and pick any character from the comics you haven't seen yet, and like people would line up to see that, and it would make minimum $750 million. So they're in a very good spot. In Black Panther, I think it's a game changer for a lot of reasons.
I mean, I could see Shuri in an Iron Man costume.
That's so it's funny on set of I can say I was on set for that one.
Yeah.
The first when we didn't know anything about the character other than who she was in the comics, like a potential future leader of Wakanda,
Yeah.
potential Black Panther herself. When they introduced her, they said she's like the head of this design group. Even though she's only 16 years old, she's the smartest person in the universe, smarter than Tony Stark, and she makes cool costumes that other heroes wear. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, for sure, if Tony Stark's on his way out, sure he can fight, can build, can lead. She's a natural leader, whether she leads Wakanda or a new team of heroes like the Avengers. Maybe all of those things together. Why not do it all, right?
I love this. This is total nerd talk, man. I love it. Okay, well, we're going to talk about Avengers in a sec, but I want to talk about 55-year-old juggernaut Tom Cruise cannot be stopped. Mission Impossible Fallout. The trailer was cool. I love the last Mission Impossible movie.
I love all of them except the second one. So
and the second one, you're probably like me. When you first saw it, it's like, this is amazing. And then you watch it again, it's like, this is so not amazing. This is so bad.
I'll never forget that John Woo slow-mo sequence, which is like 5 frames a second as they dodge. But I was like, what is happening? No more of that. But Abrams came in, Brad Bird came in, McQuarrie came in. These were all like good people to work with Tom Cruise. McQuarrie and Cruise especially. That's like an amazing Hollywood power couple.
Yes.
The only problem with this film, and I'll bring this up again with Avengers Infinity War, is there's no Jeremy Renner.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Renner. He was a great character. He was supposed to take this franchise over, and Tom Cruise was like, no, the Mummy didn't work. I'm back. We're just going to keep doing Mission Impossible films. And I'm cool because Tom Cruise is the craziest stunt actor in the history of film. So
have you met Tom Cruise? Have you ever been in a junket?
Oh, man. No. I have not. Only in a group scenario at Comic-Con. I did one-on-one. I had a 10-minute interview with him and Doug Liman for what's that movie called? That airplane movie that came out. And
the
canceled it last minute because of the London tube bombings that day. So the flights got messed up. So that was my chance, Vic.
Oh man, yeah. No, I'm a big fan of Cruise. Like there's a lot of crazy stuff in his personal life and lots of weirdness, but yeah, his movies are usually pretty damn fun, And I love the last one. I can't remember what it was called.
I think Rogue Nation was the
Rogue
last
Nation.
one.
Yes, I thought that was great. Rebecca Ferguson stole the movie. I thought she was incredible, and she's back in this one, so I'm super psyched. McQuarrie is amazing. A great filmmaker.
I'm with you 100% on Cruise. He sold me at Comic-Con years ago when he was promoting All You Need Is Kill, which became Edge of Tomorrow. They keep renaming that film.
Yeah.
When he came on stage, he says, look, man, all I want to do is make awesome friggin' movies. And I was like, yes, and that's what you're doing. They did Oblivion, Edge of Tomorrow, the resurgence of Mission Impossible. Every single one of these movies has been amazing, except for The Mummy. We won't talk about that. But everything else is awesome.
Yeah, I wonder how it would be interesting to get his take on what the hell happened with The Mummy. Because even in The Mummy, he was still Tom Cruise. It's just like they had the camera over like an inch too far. Like they screwed him. He brought all the Tom Cruise that you can get into the movie. It's just they didn't capture it right. It was terrible.
It's hard to know. I mean, according to the trades, he had sort of final approval on like every aspect of that film. So maybe there were some issues. But also, it was the first time directorial debut for what's his face?
Yeah, that's
Bob Orsi's old writing partner.
Yeah,
Alex Kurtzman.
Yeah. So
maybe that's part of it. And they tried to do that shared cinematic universe thing where they announce 5 movies before they make one good one, and it's like, no, you can't do that in today's day and age. You got to earn it.
Yes, exactly. You got to earn it. Well, let's talk about a franchise that has earned it, and we can run a little bit of the Avengers Infinity War footage here. But new trailer dropped. I think you've been on set and you've talked with everybody. I think you can tell us a little bit about
yes, I can.
What the camaraderie was, and we've seen if anybody's been sort of paying attention, there was that huge video that went out with all of the cast members getting up on stage and celebrating 10 years of the MCU. What was the mood on set like, man?
I think it's hard to describe. It's special. It was very special because, yes, you're bringing together all these people and the biggest accomplishment in film scheduling ever.
Yeah.
But it was the first time a lot of people met. You know what I mean? Like getting to sit down with, I should say that we did visit the set last June. They were like 60 days into shooting. It was a very weird schedule. Like they'd begin shooting in February, but it was only day 60 of filming because there's so many breaks in between. And like you said, people flying in and now they shot Guardians and Spider-Man stuff. Then they do the rest of the team, then Iron Man's team. It's all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Then they had a couple of weeks break. Then they started Avengers 4. And, they said if they had to like do these back to back, they would essentially shut down Hollywood because they had like 150 of like the highest profile actors all together in, a matter of weeks. So that was pretty cool. And our set visit embargo lifted this week. We started with our Chadwick Boseman and Mark Ruffalo interview. And it was cool because it was the first time Banner had met the King of Wakanda, and like that interaction, it was cool because the actors were first starting to work together, and like just hearing them like complement each other, and like the idea that a lot of these actors are working with their own heroes in the business too. So that shines through. It's kind of neat seeing like Mark Ruffalo explain like this is royalty on screen. I have to react to that. And then Don Cheadle, it was his first day on set, and seeing him walk. He can walk again, by the way, because he's got like an exoskeleton suit. He took a little bit of damage in the last movie, but seeing those guys interact, it's cool. It's funny. If you love that banter you saw in Civil War, it's like that to the nth degree in this film. So we got to talk to Chris Evans and his team of ragtag Avengers. Like that takes place 2/3 throughout the movie, and they go to Wakanda, meet Black Panther and all the heroes you love from this year's Black Panther. By the way, they could not have timed this better. Black Panther is destroying the box office, winning critics and fans. Yeah. And now they're like the center point of the Avengers movie coming out a few months later. Smart.
It's very smart. And smart. You know, they plot it and they plan it, but they don't know, right? They send it up, and people showed up, man. They want this stuff, you know?
Exactly. People say they don't take risks, but you got to remember, you go back to the beginning. They were making Avengers before Thor and Captain America even came out, and the same thing's happening now. Every year you get at least one new IP, and they're already producing 5 movies ahead. So that in and of itself is a risk, especially when each one of these films is trying to explore kind of a different genre or hybrid of genres.
Are people in Hollywood walking around following Kevin Feige with cloning machines? Like, are they trying to like kidnap him to try to bring him to other studios or something?
The guy is a playmaker. Yeah. You know, he comes from, like us, a comic book growing up, a comic book nerd, and he put in the work. He was like an assistant to the Donners, which is how he got in the franchise. He was like an assistant on the X-Men films. And by the way, you mentioned Hugh Jackman earlier. Hugh Jackman complimented Kevin Feige. He was the only guy who went out of his way, even as a lowly assistant, and like made Jackman feel amazing, took him out for dinner. And it's like that thinking pays off, and it's why the actors love working for Feige so much, and it's why Feige, to talk business for a second, was able to take Marvel Entertainment and take his studio division and pull it out and join Disney and keep it away from the rest of Marvel Publishing. And that's how he's able to keep all these actors coming back. Because Robert Downey Jr. was supposed to leave this franchise like 5 times already. Yeah. But he keeps coming back because Feige is a very talented and creative focused guy who gets it. And like I said, he's a playmaker. Like you said, he plans ahead in so many ways, right?
Yeah, so. there is some dirty baggage and stuff in there with the Marvel publishing side and lots of hostility and all that. So that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
Thanos is so important to this movie. There are so many heroes and only one Thanos. Is he gonna really deliver? Is he gonna create the threat that sort of makes us, you know, not think he's just going to be wiped out by all this ferocious, heroic talent that's out there?
That single question is the make or break of the entire film, because Thanos, they've been teasing him for years. But going back to when I visited the Guardians 2 set, we talked to Feige there, and he said, look, straight up, Avengers Infinity War, or at that time it was Infinity War Part 1, was the Thanos movie. Like, he gets half the screen time. It really is. The whole film is structured around him assembling the ultimate plot MacGuffins of the franchise, these 6 Infinity Stones. So he's going to get a lot of screen time. But what they have to do right off the bat is position him in a way that we, the audience, fears him. Because so far he's been a joke. Like, every time we see him on screen, he fails. Yeah. He gave away a stone to Loki. Loki failed. He let Ronan talk down to him and get the Power Stone in Guardians, the first Guardians movie. And it's like he does nothing. For a guy who's supposed to be one step ahead all the time and the ultimate tactical genius, he hasn't been.
He's just a dude in a chair, pretty much.
Just a big purple dude who loves space chairs. Yeah. And I think if I were Marcus and McFeely, the writers of the next Avengers movies, the first thing you do is you bring him in and kill someone fans love. Yeah. And then you're like, oh no, stakes are for real. And I think you're going to see some serious losses in this movie and Avengers 4, and that will make Thanos a worthy villain. Plus, he's got, I don't know if I'm sure you saw the trailer. Yeah. We get to meet a couple of his other children, the Black Order. Yeah. He's got 4 powerful henchmen with him and an army of CGI alien dogs. We won't talk about that, but he's got some friends who are going to help him out. So I think they're going to do it. So
that's awesome. Is DC ever going to catch up with Marvel?
Playing catch up is what's been killing them. They've been trying to copy Marvel without building. We talked about earning it, like Universal failed to do with their monster movie universe. Yeah. Same thing happened with Warner Brothers, you know, a couple executive decisions, a couple producer decisions, and then trying to rush to get their own Avengers on screen kind of killed them in the end. And they found themselves making movies they weren't ready to make. And a lot of behind the scenes messiness, and now they're stuck in a position where nobody likes the franchise, but they have a couple of heroes everyone loves, like Wonder Woman and Aquaman. So what do? You can't reboot it. So they're going to try to take what they love, add a few pieces on the outside, maybe recast Batman, and then we'll go from there. So
do you want them to recast Batman?
I personally don't, because I wanted to see them follow through on the aged, the bitter Batman who's reformed. And I don't mind. I thought Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne and all the elements around him, Jeremy playing Alfred, his Batmobile, his Batcave, the ruined the Wayne Manor, like in ruins, all those things were super strong pieces of lore. And he was great. They just put him in stories that weren't necessarily as great. And I think it's a shame that he is dealing with some personal stuff, which may force him out. And also on the studio side, they may not want him. And also at the same time, Warner Brothers may be building multiple universes. Like there's a new Joker movie, a new Batman movie. We don't even know if it's the same thing. Nobody knows, right? It's a total mess. So it's like shotgunning 100 ideas, and like there's 5 or 6 of these will make money. People will like them. Yeah. And we'll just go from there. I mean, you said Shazam in the pre-show. They're making Shazam movie in Toronto. Yeah. And they haven't even made a Flash movie. Like, what is happening? I don't. It's hard to say, man.
Yeah, and the Flash movie is Flashpoint, which is going to disrupt all of this stuff. I just watched Justice League again. I just reviewed it again. I watched it on Blu-ray, and I actually loved it. I loved it on the second viewing. I caught the comic stuff, and there was a lot of heart poured into it, even though it was kind of a mess. I really enjoyed the movie, you know?
When I came out of that as well, I thought, hey, look, at the very least, they got the heroes right. It was really fun seeing these 6 heroes all get their own personalities, all get their time to shine on screen. You can say what you want about the villains and the CGI and stuff like that, but what they failed to do all along is develop heroes we care about, and I think they successfully did that. Yeah. And coming out of Justice League, I want to see a Cyborg movie. Yeah. You know, I want to see Flash. Yes. So that in and of itself is a success, even though they had to shoot that film twice and it was a total disaster at the box office. But I mean, they tried.
So I'm going to end. We could talk all day, and I know everybody wants us to because we're all of the same mind here. But what happens with Marvel if we lose Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Evans, God forbid, in their characters?
I think they've already sort of set up the answer to that. So, I mean, you have Falcon become the next Captain America. You have Captain Marvel become the new leader of the Avengers. And now your side characters are Doctor Strange, the all-new Spider-Man. It's Valkyrie becomes the new Thor. It's like they've got themselves in such a good position where they can take – you saw that 10th anniversary shoot, and there was like 80 actors there, and that's not even half of the actors they have. Yeah. You pick any 6 of them, throw them in a movie, Marvel Studios branding, boom. You got something that plays into a larger story that people will like. I think it's very intentional that some of these characters, even some of the ones you mentioned, will die or at least shift out of the main picture. They could become background characters or be stuck in a different time period. So that's okay because they have enough characters in each one of those sub-franchises with enough new IP to back it up that they can still have the Avengers. I mean, you read the comics, you know how it is. You read the comics from 2 years ago, none of these characters we see as the original 6 from the first Joss Whedon Avengers movie was on that team in the comics. Yeah. But it was still an Avengers comic, and that's kind of the beauty of that rotating roster. Yeah. Fresh blood, new creators, new heroes, and every once in a while you bring those guys back. So
yeah, and I guess, 20 years from now they could just start it all over again.
And also, these movies are very CGI heavy. And I bet you a lot of money Disney and Marvel own the digital rights to some of these characters. So who's to say we can't have hologram Tony Stark for another 50 years, right? It's happening in the comics. So
that's what I'm guessing, actually. That's what I'm guessing. Okay, so I think we both agree Avengers Infinity War will be the biggest movie of the year. Yes?
It should be.
Yes,
it should be.
Have you ever met Joel Edgerton?
Yes.
You look just like him.
Thank you.
Has anybody ever said that?
He's a very handsome, hardworking dude.
Have you ever stood beside Joel Edgerton? Because
no, but I've had people say that before.
Yeah, because I just saw Red Sparrow, and I'm looking at you. I'm like, who the hell does this guy remind me of? And it's Joel Edgerton. Okay, so Infinity War is going to be number 1. What's going to be number 2 and 3?
I mean, Black Panther could be one of the top 2 or 3.
Right.
I mean, some people say Black Panther might even beat Avengers, but after today's trailer, I'm like, I don't know about that because this is almost Black Panther 2 plus the biggest Avengers movie you've ever seen.
Could you imagine if it's Avengers and it's so big and popular that it becomes Avengers, Black Panther, and Ant-Man are the 1, 2, and 3 of 2018?
Yeah, Incredibles, Han Solo, and Disney just walks home with a bunch of gold in their hands. Yeah, it's possible. Oh my God. I don't think Ant-Man is the billion type of billion-dollar movie. But who knows? It depends. If Avengers Infinity War does some crazy stuff and sets up Ant-Man and the Wasp, then you're like, oh, well, maybe you have to see this movie because it connects to the next one or something. But I feel like that's a movie that won't quite make $1 billion. But who knows? It's a fun question to ask. Ultimately, if it's really friggin' good, word of mouth will carry that through, especially if Avengers Infinity War is super well received. The question marks are on Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Like that could get half as much money as the first one if it's as bad as I think it looks,
Yeah.
And as you may think it looks.
Yeah.
And then Han Solo, I mean, if it makes Rogue One money, it's going to hit $1 billion. But if it's doesn't pick up some steam, it's not even going to cross $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean,
so
Last Jedi was a huge smash too. I mean, it wasn't it wasn't maybe the smash that everybody wanted it to be in all senses of the word, but it still made tons of money. So yeah, so I wouldn't count Solo out. Solo might be. I think Avengers will be at the top, but Solo's going to be up near there too. And hopefully it's great. So Rob, you're fantastic, man. I hope we can have you back on the show soon.
Anytime, man. Anytime. This is awesome.
Okay. Well, you rock. Thank you so much.